The Third World Solidarity has brought miners in London. And I think you should all be proud that I am a Pakistani British or British Pakistani. It is up to you whatever you want to mention me, but I live in London. I'm a red tie man living in Kensington, Chelsea. So you can understand where I stand. And I remember about 15, 20 years ago, I invited Tony Benn, and can I tell you who is this? How many people know who is this?
Tony Benn.
So he came to town hall and he stood on the platform and he said, I have lived in this borough for the last 60 or 70 years, and this is first time that I have come to the mayor parlour of Kensington, Chelsea. Mushtaq, thank you very much. So I'm pretty sure that today Miner will be saying same. I think why we are gathered today here, there are people from Pakistan, there are people from America, there are people from Ethiopia, there are people from Reading. The table is sitting there, Reading, and I always say I'm an honorary member of Reading. So, and special welcome to Durham. And many parliamentarians are here. I'm thankful to all of you to give up your Sunday evening, and especially the parliamentarian who have traveled all the way from the north. There is none from London, and they should be ashamed, because we did write to them. And on behalf of Dave Anderson, who is our chairman, and Third World Solidarity, can I welcome you once again to London, who are out of London, and all who are from London are so welcome to this beautiful place. I hope you will enjoy the evening, but let me tell you why we are gathered here. We are here today because we believe in same values. I think a lot of word has been used that the people who are not, or they are trying to destroy our values. I think we should define what are our values. And I'm going to just say a few words. Other explanation will come from my three speakers in a moment. But I'll tell you what are our values. And I think everybody in this room will agree with me that our values are equality, peace, justice, tolerance, freedom in the world. Not dividing people on religious, ethnic, or other strands, or sects. So we believe in justice and freedom. And I think that is a common value for mankind. I know we are gathered here, and I know there are many young people around you, and I'm very pleased that they are here to support us and carry on the banner which was started 131 years ago in Durham. And it has continued. Many of my friends had attended it for many years. I was very privileged to be invited by Dave Anderson when he became the chairman of all-party parliamentary group. And the first delegation of Third World Solidarity, which attended Durham Gala dinner, was led by Sandra Setterly and her partner, who is not with us, but we remember him that he led a delegation to go there. Without any delay, can I invite the first speaker, and he will explain what is Durham Gala and what is the minor. I can just tell you it is the largest gathering of trade unionists in United Kingdom, at least, or possibly in Europe. And it happens every second weekend of July. And I hope many of you will pick up the leaflets, pick up other information, and this year you will attend it. It is a wonderful, and can I say it in Punjabi, that what is it? It is a Durham Mela. You know what is Mela? So Mela, so every Pakistani, every Indian, every Punjabi and every should go there and dance around whole day and whole night. It does happen on this year, it will be 13th of July. So I'm going there, and I hope many of you will go. And I'm pretty sure table 9 will circulate our attendance today, because they are the journalists. We are here possibly 70, 80, 90, 100 people, but they are read by millions and hundreds of thousands of people, and they will tell everybody that this is something we should all attend and go and support them. So let me invite our first speaker, who is Dave Harper, the Secretary General of Durham Miners Association.
Thank you very much, Mushtaq. I think you may have built your
seat next year to speak at the gala. We've never had a Pakistani there, and I think it's about time we probably did. I think, first of all, I would like to thank the Third World Solidarity. It's a privilege really to be here. It was totally unexpected. The miners in the past in Britain led a very insular life. Our communities didn't really get people from other nations because the workforce was there. It was all a British workforce, and when people started coming to Britain and expanding our culture, actually, after the Second World War, it took a long time before we got any foreign people into our communities. And I will say they've enriched our communities, they've been great citizens of our country, and we certainly welcome them in all respects and support them in all respects. And it's great to get an invitation from Third World Solidarity to get behind the miners who were in the throes of the end of the coal industry in Britain. We all know what happened there. I'm not going to repeat old stories about where we are, or where we've come from, or where we've ended up at. But in Britain today, we live in a very, very dangerous world. We live in a community where we're seeing a tremendous amount of activity from people who our forefathers gave their lives to fight in the Second World War. And I was in Newcastle, it was only 2 weeks ago, I think, where we had an organisation on the streets that shouldn't be allowed on the streets of Britain, marching in protest against immigration and against foreign nationals. And without foreign nationals, our community would drop to bits. All of our hospitals rely on people from third world countries and all across the world. And I've only got one thing to say about that. My life and a lot of other people's lives has resulted by the fact that we've had these people working in our hospitals and enriching our culture. The Miners' Gala started in 1871, a long time ago. I think it was only Rodney about at that time. And it's been a proud tradition of people who believed in hard work, but also believed in fair play. And throughout our history, we've been connected with all sorts of associations with people who have been in foreign countries, fighting for freedom, fighting for justice, just like our people did in Britain many years ago. The capitalist society today is in a terrible mess, and the workers have been made to pay for that. The bankers' crisis, the workers have been made to pay for that. People who've worked a lifetime in the mining industry are now getting their benefits attacked, benefits that we've contributed to through a national service and through a social system which was brought in by the Attlee government in 1945, has just been cast to one side. So we've got a world to win, we've got a lot of issues to get support on. And building for support for them issues is not as easy as what people think. But nevertheless, we've got to give a commitment and do exactly as we feel it should be done to put the world in a better place. I was always told as a young man, when I first started getting involved in trade unions, that you leave the world a better place for your next generation. And I think that's a proud ideal. And we've tried to do that. Unfortunately, my generation now are leaving the world in more of a worse situation than it was when we come into. But anyhow, the gala itself, it's a massive demonstration of working class solidarity. It's a working class tradition that'll never be bettered. Only a number of years ago, maybe 15, well, certainly 30 years ago, there was many miners' gala. I remember the Mela in Newcastle. That's a big cultural event which was mentioned by Mushtaq. There was many of these events across the country. Miners marched and rallied and demonstrated. And these demonstrations come about against oppression. That's what it was all about. It was against oppression. And we've carried that on. Today, we're facing almost the end of the gala, as we see it. We've just had a miners' knee litigation case against the government of all people, which an ex-Prime Minister Gordon Brown could have solved for us. And the Durham Miners Association, the bill which was run up was £1.4 million. We've just paid that tranche of the bill, and now Nathan Nabarros has come back at us and are trying to get more money out of us. So the government, we didn't expect another of Tories, like. The government are trying to get more money out of the Durham Miners Association. We face, possibly in a worse scenario, another £1.2 million bill. If that's successful, if their actions are successful, although we've instructed our lawyers, Thompson's, the trade union, best trade union lawyers in the country, we've instructed them to fight it on all fronts. But if that bill comes to anywhere near their demands, the Durham Miners Gala will be finished. To that extent, I think the people in the movement are there, and there's still a lot of good people in the trade union movement. They are trying to keep the gala going as a force of workers throughout Britain. And hopefully, we've had a tremendous response up to now from all the trade unions we've attended, the ASLEF, the JMB, the Fire Brigades Union, we're down to Unison, we're going to the RMT, and they realise along with us, so workers in Britain realise that we've got to unite, we've got to fight for the principles that we believe in, for fairness, equality, and for better conditions for everybody. But the biggest threat we have in our communities at the moment is the rise of the ultra-right. And these people shouldn't be allowed to be in the country at all, never mind marching in our streets and contaminating good people. Yeah. So we've got a massive battle on our hands, and we feel the battle can be won, and it's got to be won for everybody. And that battle, if we lost the Durham Miners Gala, I think it'll be very much more difficult for us to win in our communities, where there's very little work at the moment, where there's a lot of drugs, where Cameron mentioned the big society a number of years ago. He was on about the big society. The Durham Miners had the big society generations ago. We built our own hospitals, we built our own welfares, we educated our people, we built welfares, we built sports grounds. We were the total society, never mind the big society, the total society. And we policed ourselves. There were great places to live, great places to be brought up in. They respected the values of socialism, they respected the values and the hopes and aspirations of our people. I just picked a paper up the other day about Franco's Spain, where the Durham miners sent donations after Franco had killed many Asturian miners in 1936-39 in the Spanish Civil War. I'm forgetting the actual quote of the money we sent. The miners sent this money to help the people, the miners of northern Spain in Asturias. And in today's value, it was a tremendous amount of money. I just couldn't believe how much men who were really not, you know, and they weren't in poverty, but certainly they were just above the poverty line, contributed week after week after week in the fight against fascism in Spain and to help the families of the people who were killed by Franco. Also, I think we were called the enemy within by a woman whose name I'm not going to mention. She said the miners were the enemy within. The miners were never the enemy within. You can go into any coalfield area in Britain, including Durham obviously, and see monuments to the battle against fascism and against racism, and them communities lost many, many people. So we've got a whole war to win now. If we didn't get this gala kept on board, it'll make that task more difficult. It's a multicultural event. We invite every one of you to come up there on the 13th of July, and I'm sure you'll be very, very pleased. We've got a great array of speakers up this year. We've got speakers from the trade union and labour movement and journalists. Kevin Maguire, the industrial editor of the Daily Mirror, whose father was a miner. Owen Jones, a journalist. Lenny McCluskey, the Unite General Secretary. We've got the new lady, General Secretary of the TWS, and we've got Bob Crow of the Transport Union. Socialist everyone, and they'll be arguing and fighting for what everybody in this room believes in: internationalism, the cause of people, and the open destination of the world. So it's great to be here. I pay a tremendous tribute to Mushtaq and all the people connected with her. As you see, it's a very unique occasion. The first time that Durham Miners has ever been invited to London, and it's took an organisation like Third World Solidarity to do this for us. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, wholeheartedly. We'll be with you, we'll be fighting with you and struggling with you, whether in this country or back in third world countries. Our fight is their fight, and your fight is our fight. So best of luck tonight. Thank you very, very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Davy. And can I confirm that Third World Solidarity holds annual dinner? And I welcome friends from India as well, although South Hall is mini India. So can I give them a big hand? Councillor Sheetal and others who are here, Sarfraz Khan, Sanjay. So can I tell you, everybody here, that I'm going to dedicate our annual dinner to save the Durham Miners Gala every year. And we will work with you, Devi, to raise the funds which you need to save it. Because in my opinion, the event which happens in Durham on second week of July is very important for everybody, not only in United Kingdom or Europe, but in the world, because the people who gather there, and there are many, many tens of thousands of people, and I hope you will see it this year as well, with banners like this. In the morning they start at 8 o'clock and finish at 4 o'clock at the church, and I think you can see the picture of that church somewhere here, and I think it will be great loss for not only people in United Kingdom who believe in socialism, but people who believe in equality, in justice, in peace and freedom throughout the world. So next year, our annual dinner will be dedicated to the miners of Durham for every year. My next speaker is a great friend of mine, and I can't say more than that, because he is one of those socialists who was blocked by a leader of the Labour Party not to become Member of Parliament in the United Kingdom. We miss you in the Parliament, Mark. Can I invite you to come and speak?
And you all thought you were going to have your dinner. I'll tell you what, I thought it was going to be Rodney next. Who could this be here? Who could this be here? It's Rodney! The back of Rodney! I'm not going to say any more. But thank you very much, Mushtaq. It is a great privilege, genuinely, to be asked I asked to come and speak, actually. As soon as I heard that this was being held to save the gala, or help towards saving the gala, I wanted to come and speak, because as a very young person, I got up to Durham in 1983, which is where I got this tie. Now, some people say it's Terry Lean, but actually it's a good quality tie. It's a Grahame Morris over there tells me it's quite valuable now. It's a big meeting. It's the 100th, and it's a centenary meeting of the Durham Miners Gala, and that's where Dave Hopper was there, Dave Guy was there, and this was a great education for me. And I used to try and get up to the Durham Gala every year. I went up the following year, and that was famously the year of the Great Miners' Strike. and at a time when many in the Durham coalfield felt that the Labour Party was not giving the support that miners needed nationally. And I remember the North East Area Band walking off the course as Neil Kinnock got up to speak. And I remember afterwards there was a great push by some in the Labour Party. He says, oh, we don't want to have the Durham Miners' Gala at all. They tried to set something up at Beamish at a museum. It never took off. It never took off. And the most amazing thing, really, if you think back, is to my mind, it's the power, the solidarity, the history, everything that came together to make sure that the gala carried on and just got bigger. I mean, I said Dave Temple. Dave Temple has been running a trade union printing service, producing all sorts of books and magazines about the gala, about mining history and much else besides. And he's telling me that there are new banners being dedicated from the old coalfield areas every year. So the idea that this is all old history, it's not. It's become such a powerful national annual event. It grows, it diversifies, but it still is loyal to where it comes from, the mining communities of Durham. So they never killed the spirit of the Durham coalfield. And when I look at it, there's Dave Hopper standing there as he was doing in 1983. It's an astonishing thing because, you know, everybody thought it was all going to be over, because in many other parts of the country it is true. I mean, because of the scale of the closure program, the savaging of an industry by people who always claim to be very clever and smart. These establishment people claim that they know what they're doing. They closed an industry and they tried to destroy it, but they didn't destroy the spirit. So now Dave Anderson, who is also supposed to be here tonight, by the way, but is sadly not present. Dave, actually, during that week, we can't mention her name, the woman who must not be mentioned. But during that week, there are many speeches well worth having a look at, but Dave Anderson's speech in Parliament is well worth having a look at. It's a very, very powerful speech. And one of the arguments he was making is the reason why they closed many of the coal mines in Britain, saying that they were unprofitable, is actually they were super efficient, they were very modern, they had enormous investment in them. They had so much investment in them that when Alf Robins was running the National Coal Board, he said, we don't want to have any foreign coal coming in because we put so much investment into our own industry. Can you imagine a British politician saying that now? But the thing is that, you know, this industry was modern, it was efficient, and Dave Anderson points out that we're now importing coal, because coal has not disappeared. It's still 40% of our electricity in this country comes from coal. But it's coming from many countries, many developing countries, where miners are struggling in dank, dirty, miserable, dangerous conditions. And Dave's argument was that there's blood on that coal. There's blood on that coal that comes from China. There's blood on that coal that comes from Colombia. And we know that because we hear the news. We hear about all the mining disasters that happen. So I first went there into the Durham Gala in '83, and I've had a long connection all the way through. I remember in, I think it was the early 90s, when Michael Heseltine was the minister. He wanted to be Prime Minister, of course. He got up and he had a great list of collieries to read out that were going to shut. And I'll never forget that, because in his list he said, Point of Ayre, Scotland. That's bloody North Wales. Another clever Tory. So they shut the industry down, but I'd got to know Grahame Morris, I got to know John Cummings, and Alan from Easington Colliery, and we were all working together to try and persuade the government that it didn't make any economic sense. All of these arguments have been used a million times. There's no point in as Dave was saying, sort of revisiting history, but it is absolutely astonishing that at a time when this country could be, and still could be, one of the leaders in carbon capture, in clean coal technology. They were on the verge of opening one of those plants in Doncaster next to Hatfield Colliery. We've said we're not interested. They're decommissioning power stations. They're saying that the lights could go out. And one of the reasons, if the lights ever did go out, is because we don't have the coal. We're not digging it, but we have to import what we need. So it's all absolute madness. I was interested today, the past few weeks, this terrible Tory government continuing, just as all the others are, privatising this, privatising that. They want to privatise the Royal Mail now. But interestingly, they were talking about renationalising a bit of the coal industry. And I had to reread this. It was in the Guardian newspaper. So, well, maybe they've got it wrong. The Guardian doesn't necessarily know what the Tories are doing. But it's true. Because after that big fire at the Dormill Colliery in the Midlands, obviously there's a huge concern about workers there not getting their pensions. And so the government may actually step in order to save UK coal, what's left of the industry, by nationalising part of it. Well, that made me think that really it's high time that all the rest of it was nationalised. But what we have got to do that, not just for coal, but for the railways, but for water, for all of the utilities. And you know, we've had 20 years of this nonsense from the Thatcherites, from the Blairites, all of them saying the same thing. You know, this is all dinosaur stuff. Nobody wants public ownership. It's what works that matters. That's what they tell us. What works? Well, there's not much working in modern day Britain. Not even their wretched banks work. So why not take these public utilities, our utilities, back into social and public ownership? We should have them. We need to control them. We need them back. And I'll tell you what, if the Labour Party was to actually do that, it might do very well at the next general election. Because it's not only Labour supporters that favour the railways that have been taken back into public ownership. A lot of Tories do too. A lot of Tories don't want to see the Royal Mail sold off. Now, at this stage, I was going to give you a quote from an hour in Bevan, but I thought better of it because we're getting very hungry. But it did run along the lines of, Britain is an island of coal surrounded by a sea of fish, and whoever manages to mess up the organisation with that does it well. But anyway, it's been messed up. It's been messed up for 20 odd years, and it's I keep with the trouble is, it's not just a question. It's not just a matter to my mind of keeping the Gala going and expanding it because it's a living entity. And it probably will be around for another 100 years. I'm sure in one way or another it will be. But it's about, we should stop being apologetic for some of the arguments for socialism, for public ownership, because they all make more sense than ever. And I think, not only have we got to support the Gala, because that is where we can hear some of these arguments. And one of the most powerful things also that's coming out of the past few weeks is, once again, the historical internationalism of the Durham Miners Association. We've heard Dave led the campaign up and then was part of the campaign leading against the fascists being appointed to run Sunderland Football Club, whose name I've forgotten. Yeah. But I mean, that's a classic example of why we need the Gala and why we need the Durham Miners Association. So in furtherance of that, and this is selling off an ancient heirloom of mine, I'm going to raffle this. I can't raffle it now?
No, later on.
I can't raffle it. Well, you won't be able to see it until later on. In that case, we'll all have to be surprised about the beauty of the thing that I'm going to raffle. Anyway, thank you very much, Conrad.
Thank you very much, Mark, and I hope your message is taken and we can continue working together to make this word better word and less cruel word. But I'm inviting our main speaker or keynote speaker, one of the speakers. He says, he rang me a few weeks back and he asked me, what do you want me to speak about? And I said, trade union role in the word peace and justice. And he asked me, do you want me to speak, do you want me to be a funny or a serious? And I said, seriously funny. So can I invite Rodney Bickerstaffe to come and speak?
Thanks very much, Mushtaq. Good evening, everybody. Just good. And the ones at the back, can you hear me? Hard luck. Can I say I'm delighted to be here. And I have to say, Mushtaq, I did not know much about the Third World Solidarity Organisation, but I am reading up on it more and more. And I would start off with the miners and the Durham Gala. Some, by the way, call it Gala. Some call it Gala. I come from Yorkshire, Gala sounds sort of working class, you know what I mean? Gala sounds sort of Durhamish, doesn't it, you know? So, but it is Gala. You can call it what you want. You say Gala, I say anyway. I've been going for many years, certainly since I became a General Secretary in 1982. And of course, we went through all those troubles in 84, 85, and all the things that have been talked about. It really is a most wonderful day. If there's anything that I like about it, it's loyalty. Loyalty to a cause, never giving in. Never walking away from an idea or an ideal that you believe in. There's too much of people saying, you know, these are my principles, and if you don't like them, I've got a few others here, you know? The Durham Miners Gala, every year, not identical, it moves, it changes, it develops, but of course there are no mines now. You say, how can you have a Durham Miners Gala if there aren't any pits, if there are no workers? Because what they've said is, look, we are loyal to our cause. Our cause wasn't just our industry. Our cause was our community. Our cause was our life. Our cause, as Dave said right at the beginning, was, you know, the sort of principles, the values that they believed in then and that they believe in now. So you'll see all those banners. And I'm delighted, the back of my head, front of my head, I'm delighted to be on one of the... I'm just a bit upset by 1871 because, honestly, I may look it, but I was not there. Which reminds me, I was a General Secretary when I retired early. Well, you have to do it in a game like mine. I looked like this at 30 years of age, which is why people still say to me, you haven't changed. And absolutely right, it's just that I looked 70 when I was 30. Anyway, I was met by Jack Jones, some of you heard this, absolutely true, and he said, Rodney, will you come and work for the pensioners of the country, the National Pensioners Convention that Jack Jones of the TNG set up along with the Trade Union Congress in 1978. Many of you will remember Jack, know Jack, and I see some people nodding already. And he said, will you stand as president if I stand down? And I said, I'm not old enough, Jack. And he said, no, Rodney, but you look it. So I'll never forget Jack Jones. What am I talking about? Well, Dave told me I was going to be talking about the Durham Miners Gala. And I think, just in passing, before I move on to world peace, a much easier topic, of course, that I ought to say I see no reason at all why under a freshly bought banner headed Third World Solidarity you can't have all your people, Mushtaq, up there this year marching, not just on the side applauding. I think a banner with Third World Solidarity and 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 of your people, it would be... That would speak volumes. That would speak volumes. And you'd have to get a band of some description. Well, you wouldn't have to, but you might. Well, I'm sure you can hire one of the Durham brass bands or silver bands. But I would really say, I know it's only a short term away. If you can't do it this year, do it next year, and do it under that banner. A, because it will mean people say, "What is this organisation?" And it will make people up there learn about your organisation, about the values that you've got. But B, it will say something. I mean, the Durham Miners, Dave started off by saying that, you know, in days of old, it was a very British thing, the miners. It was obviously a masculine thing, but it was a very British thing too. But I've seen over the last 20 or 30 years, people from Canada, people from Australia, people from many parts of the world, South Africa, and I just think it would be a great idea if you were to add that to it. Now, trade unions and world peace, well, that's an easy one, isn't it? Trade unions are just people. I mean, Mrs. Thatcher, I'm sorry. I just like upsetting him. They tell me she's dead. I spoke in Canada, absolutely true, and you might not like it. And I might offend people in the next 5 minutes. I don't care, because you're not inviting me again. I said in Canada that the day that Mrs. Thatcher dies, I want to be one of the stakeholders that make sure she doesn't come back. Because there is a very real worry, you know, that she will. In fact, yeah. Some of you, by the way, have you been to the Bilderberg Hotel? Yeah? Well, some of you look quite rich. I'm not talking about the Durham lot, obviously. No. World peace. I just jotted down a few quick thoughts. I mean, and I would start off, and this might offend some people, I think we should stop Trident. I think we should stop Trident. And I know that there are people who will say, oh, no, Rodney, because, you know, as long as we've got that 4 Trident nuclear submarines, that we're safe against the world. You cannot have, if President Obama's right, and his argument about having less and less rifles and handguns in the United States will help, how much truer is it that if we get rid of all the nuclear weapons in the world, there will be less and less chance of that one day of something happening. So, I mean, and I know you mentioned Nye Bevan. I mean, Nye turned on a sixpence on that particular one, and he said, if you remember, don't sort of tie my hands, don't send me naked into the conference chamber. Yeah? Well, my own view is that, whether he was right or wrong then, that certainly now, the state of our economy and the state of our world, to be paying out 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 billion pounds on 4 nuclear submarines that we don't actually own and control ourselves is ludicrous. Every year, 25,000, give or take, old people, old Pakistani people, old Indian people, old English, Welsh, Scottish, you name it, in this country, died of cold-related illnesses before their time. And it need not happen. It needn't happen. 25,000. And we are supposed to be looking after people in this country. If you took the money out of the defence fund and looked after eating and heating and shelter and healthcare for those 25,000, you've only saved 25,000 lives. Over 10 years, you've only saved 250,000 lives. And when people say to me, well, old people, they've done their bit, you know, there are societies on this globe where older people are still respected, am I right? Yes. They are, and many of you will know what I'm saying. They are looked after and respected, whatever their problems, whatever the issues. And for good or ill, we've lost so much of that. There was never a golden age where we thought older people were perfect and should be held up there. But at least it was a better time than we've got today. And when I hear, and I've been a member of the party, the Labour Party, and some of you may not be, and some of you may not like it, but I've been a member for nearly half a century, and I have to question all the policy developments where there is a question mark over universal benefits. Because not just across the world, but here, certainly in this country, there's so much that pushes us apart. Colour of our skin, obviously, makes us different. Our accent makes us different. Our education makes us different. Our religions, our dialects, there's so much that pushes us apart. And yet there is a welfare state here, built up over decades, in fact thought about for centuries, which says, I don't care how rich you are, you will get this state pension. And if you don't need this state pension, you're still going to get it, because there's a massive cost if we have to say, you don't have to get it because you're rich, but you do because you're poor. And secondly, because it was said not too many years ago by a famous academic that if you only have benefits and services for the poor, then you will end up with poor benefits and poor services. Richard Titmuss, yeah? And I believe that, so I honestly do feel that this opening of some of these universal benefits is a problem. I actually, personally, you think I'm stupid, I haven't had a drink, honestly. I think there should be universal benefits considered right across the world.
Yeah.
And that may be a dream. There are 7 billion people on this spinning planet. 7 billion. Again, give or take. But my view is, we shouldn't have a situation where you can lay off unemployed men and women in country A because you found country C where men and women can be forced to be paid less. And that's what's happened over and over and over again. We've got lots to answer for with the colonial years, there's no doubt about it. I don't mean individually, and I don't necessarily mean even as a nation, and I think some of these apologies have question marks anyway. But I think we have to admit that the rape and the pillage and the carnage and the theft that was done over those empire years has resulted in so much pain and hardship across the continents of the earth that we should be ashamed. And when our Prime Minister, of whom I'm not a great fan, says, as you might guess, says something like we're one of the few countries in the world that is giving the 0.7% towards aid, you know, that's somehow wonderful. I mean, it's right and proper that we're doing it. But if you look back at some of the things that this British Empire did in those days, absolutely disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. The miles it's taken how long to say sorry to them, and small amounts of money going to them, all the ones that have died. So we're not a perfect society. People say to me, in Pakistan, look recently, you saw the factory and the health and safety. I say, what about England? 7 years ago, 18 Chinese cockle pickers on a beach in Lancashire drowned. They were on £1 a day. £1 a day. So when people talk to me about deregulation at home and allowing, well, we can cut back on health and safety, everybody knows what it's about, and we don't have to do anything abroad because they can look after themselves. Well, they can look after themselves when it's poor people being exploited in order for us to get Nike shoes or cheap t-shirts. That's all right. But when it comes to intervention as warriors, inverted commas, then so many here are slap happy. Let's go into Iraq. Let's go into Afghanistan. Let's do this, let's do that. As though somehow, not only were we still a major power, but that we were right and we were morally correct in doing these things. I tell you, I wasn't going to get on to Syria. I'm absolutely convinced in my own heart and my own mind we should not be putting arms into Syria on behalf of anybody. There will just be more carnage and more carnage. Of course, am I boring everybody to death? I probably am. Well, anybody, I thought I heard a stomach or two rumbling, but that could have been Davy Hopper.
Kashmir is very core issue.
Kashmir, yeah.
Please, yeah. Don't forget that Kashmir is a core issue between India, Pakistan, and America. Please.
Well, no, it's absolutely true, and I haven't got all the answers to Kashmir, I'll tell you now. It is important, but it's not the only place. It's also the waters between Japan and China. I mean, if you think about it, there's nowhere in the planet. Why were we in the war in the Falklands? Was it for those 1,387 people there? Possibly. Was it because we had a megalomaniac in power? Possibly. Or was it that on the sea floor there is potentialities of oil and gas and heaven knows what? Possibly. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. All I'm saying is, when people are talking about going to war, my question mark usually is not just about the idiot who's saying, follow me, we're going to rule the world. It's the person or persons who are saying there's money to be made here. When I was a little boy, I was taught a poem. War leads to poverty, poverty to peace. Peace leads to plenty, then riches increase. Riches bring pride, and pride is war's ground. War leads to poverty, so goes the round. And I've always thought, I've always thought that war is economically related, you know? And what have we got? You see, you read the books. Anybody heard of or read The Spirit Level? I mean, the ideas aren't new. It's just that they put figures to it. I mean, what they generally said in the book is, look, the more equal society you've got, the happier the society. A socialist principle, much as you well know. But I say, what about the world? You know, as long as you've got people dying of starvation in this rich planet of ours, as long as you've got babies being thrown on sewage heaps because their parents just cannot afford to keep them, as long as you've got a situation where children are growing up twisted, their bodies all over the place because of malnourishment, and we're the 7th richest country in the world, here in the UK. And not 700 yards from here, nice hotel, isn't it? 700 yards from here, there's a food bank. You could reach it yourselves, any one of you, almost on your hands and knees within 7 or 8 minutes. St Pancras Church up on the corner, that's where it is. There's a food bank. Food bank here in Bloomsbury, rich Bloomsbury. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's just a matter of equality, which was something that was said on so many of the banners up there, not on this one, but it has things like that. Equality. They've been telling the tale since 1871, Davy. And a lot of them are very simple, basic truths. Like, you've got to help your neighbour up if they fall. That doesn't mean with guns or bombs. It means with aid. It means with education. Not in a patronising way, but in saying, yes, we did take rather a lot from you, didn't we? So it's about time you got some of it back. And what do? The last 50, 60 years of the welfare state, we met every dictator in the world, our governments. We shook hands with them, we drank wine with them, we ate with them, and we gave or sold them our military equipment, correct? It's absolutely true. And yet we go into this country to get rid of a dictator because dictators are bad. It's the double think of some of the elite in this country. Migration ought to be mentioned in international terms. It's already been said by one or two other speakers. I mean, the one thing that I like about the United States entrance is that great big statue and the poem written in the 1880s, was it? 1885 or something, that more or less said, give me your poor, give me your, you know? Because they haven't done bad off it, have they? And I believe the mix is what makes a nation, and it's the mix that will make the globe. And I hope one day when the Treens come, or the Martians, or whoever the hell they are, they'll find a united world. Because I tell you what, if we don't all, and Tony Benn tells this sort of story about a boat, you know, if we don't all look after the boat together, the boat will sink. World climate, another thing to talk about. Perhaps not this evening. So, I mean, there is so much. You mentioned EDL. I'll mention UKIP. And I'll mention the BNP. And it's right that whenever times are hard, there will be a man or a woman who will stand up proudly and say, I am the answer. Come to me. I know the way forward. And they'll hold their hands like this and they'll stand proud. And there's too many people who are desperate, who are conned by this. And they want a hand in the night to see them through. And they're simple things. We've seen it before. We saw this on the continent. Somebody mentioned the Spanish Civil War. If people had listened to Jack Jones and others who fought in that Spanish Civil War on the side of the good guys, well, who knows, perhaps that last fascist war might not have taken place. So what do I say about world peace? I think it's a good thing. I think it can be achieved. It can't be achieved in our generation. There are too many wars going on already. But we can educate. We can talk to our sons and our daughters, our grandsons and our granddaughters. We can talk to our cousins. We can even talk to our aunts and uncles and grandparents, some of whom may not think the way I talk or you think. And we can say, one world, one humanity, and we'd like them all to come to the next Durham Miners' Garden. Thanks very much.
Rodney, thank you very much. I think it was one of the best and good speech I have heard. I might have not heard a lot from you, but I have heard you some. And I am very thankful. I think final word before we eat. And I have ordered some young men, bring the beer here. I know these are the three people who like some more beer. So I know they are from the north, so they love beer before going for food. So let me start by a few thanks. I'm very thankful to Dr. Amir Majid, who is sitting at the back. He's a blind man. He has done 3 PhDs on human rights. He teaches and he's a judge on immigration. I'm very thankful. Naseem Ahmed, Solicitor, Riaz Gul Saab, Chaudhry Aftab Ali, and I might miss some. I know somebody has come from all the way from Pakistan. He was a very young officer of labor union in 70s. But he doesn't look that old. He's a young man, Shami Shah. And can I thank the Deputy Farmer Mayor and Deputy Mayor Councillor Gul Muaz Khan and his team sitting on that table from Reading. But particularly I want to thank a very special person after I have thanked many, Khwaja Sahab and everybody. I know many people are unable to, and Sarfraz Khan, Cheetal and Sanjay ji I have already thanked, but I want to thank one person very specially, and I hope you don't mind. Benazir Lasharie, can you stand up? Please, it is her birthday and she's still here. Her birthday, and happy birthday to Benazir, thank you for coming. And with her husband, Demandici. So it is great to give up that sort of commitment. Jeff, I'm very thankful, and Thompson solicitors are always supported not only the trade union movement, but Third World Solidarity as well. And I promise, Rodney, not this year because it is 1 month and I wouldn't be able to drag 50 or 40 people to go with the banner, but next year I promise you there will be banner of Third World Solidarity in the car. And can I put my son Chi in charge of it, who will do it? He is sitting here. So I have to put young people in charge of it. So I can't do it with Kevin and Sajjad, who will do it, and I hope they will get the support from everybody. But can I ask Mark to come and tell us, because I know now everybody is relaxed, so they might be able to buy this picture before I ask vote of thanks from my friend and parliamentarian, because there are many parliamentarians here and some of them might be on the way. They have not done. So Mark, come here, and he is going to auction this small thing, only one item. So there are not many. I hope somebody will buy it. And this money, and let me say it first, everybody who is in this room has paid 50 quid to come here. The food is around 40 quid, so everybody is contributing £10 toward Miners' Gala dinner this year. So I think you should appreciate yourself as well. So come on, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mushtaq. Actually, I did ask Rodney how much this should start off with. He says 25 guineas. 1871. What we have here is the Easington Lodge banner, and this is Alan Cummings' lodge. Alan's coming. He, of course, during the week when the woman who cannot be mentioned passed away, the only relief for all of us, the only thing that really made us all cheer up was the fact that the Witch's Dead got to number 2, and things were kicking off at Easington Colliery. And here we have it. This is the banner. It's framed, and it features on it Lawrence Daly, one of the great NUM leaders, as Rodney was saying, a great internationalist, a great mind as well, and Tommy Hebben, who went down underground when he was 8 years old, and was one of the, well, Dave Hopper will tell you more about it, I'm sure, but one of the earliest trade union agitators in the North East coalfield, and I think he helped form the North East Union of Pitmen, but ended up being thrown out of the coalfields, being stopped from working and all the rest of it. But it's underneath, it's signed by John Cummings, who was Graham Morris's predecessor as the MP for the Easington constituency, and John, of course, was NUM and a miner himself. So, without further ado, and you don't have to bid for this, Alan, because you've probably got about 20 of these. So I think we should kick off at 25 quid. Who's going to give me 25 quid for this thing of beauty? You, sir, 25. Let's take another, any more on that? No. 35. 35. 50 over here, £50. £60. £60. Any higher, £60? Any higher, anybody wish to bid any more than £60 for this? 70. Now things are getting serious. 75. Wow, stratospheric. Lovely. I'll tell you what, because you see, I was getting very worried that John Cummings would get very grumpy that I'm selling this. But if now he knows it's going to such a good cause.
110.
110 from the comrade over there. Anybody wish to bid? Mr. Rodney bid? No. 120. 120. 120. Any higher? 120. 120.
Yeah. Can I ask Rodney and Davy Harper to come and give it to Abbey King? He has proven to be a king. So give him Davy Guy, the president as well.
I said, well, I've got a little bit of my life left from Davy.
Come on.
Have you ever seen such a cheap way of getting a photo?
Come in. Here is the man who is born in the winner. Thank you very much. Can I? Thank you very much. Thank you very well done, Mark, and thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Can I invite, on behalf of all parliamentarians, including Dave Anderson, who is in USA on Northern Ireland committee visit, can I invite Grahame Morris, MP, to say a vote of thanks, please?
Thanks so much, and thanks very much to Mushtaq. He's a most splendid standard bearer and ambassador. And it's a real privilege that you've organised this event this evening. And it's a real privilege for me, representing Easington and the mining constituency, to see so many friends, old and new, and Alan Cummings in the audience. No, it's really terrific that you've come out, and that there are so many common bonds that join us together in this quest for social justice and equality. And I do hope that you'll get behind the gala. It's a real beacon of hope for all of us. Our pits have closed, but the spirit lives on. And there's so much more that binds us together than drives us apart. So on behalf of Dave Anderson, on behalf of Mushtaq, on behalf of our hosts who have come along, and the individuals who've bought tickets tonight, I'd just like to give you a big thank you on behalf of the organisations, and look forward to welcoming you in Durham in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks very much.
I'm